For a country with a population of just over 10 million people, it's impressive that Sweden can maintain one of the best fighter aircraft programs. An aircraft's effectiveness is no longer determined mainly by how fast it can fly. Now it's about how instant AI can interpret information and present the data for pilots to act upon in battle. Unlike US or Russian fighters, Swedish Gripen can't carry the most weapons and has no real stealth. To be clear, it isn't the longest range, the fastest, or even the cheapest jet. Nevertheless, Sweden has chosen another niche to compete. The country's focus is to develop a fighter jet with the most advanced electronics to become a nightmare for its closest adversary, Russia. The tension between the two countries has lasted since the Cold War, and now it's coming to a high peak. The Russian behavior in the Baltic Sea region has changed, as the country is willing to use the military to achieve political goals. Russia's commercial investments in the Baltic and Arctic regions have been matched by continued defense investments and activities to control natural resources and marine access. To prove intentions, Russia turned Northern Europe into a playground, as Su-35, 34, and 27 fighters routinely train over northern waters and probe Swedish airspace without permission. Increased Russian activity in the Baltic Sea region has pushed Sweden into a hasty program of rearmament. Sweden will raise military spending by about 40%, or $3.1 billion, in the next 5 years to strengthen its defense. Sweden always relies on tactical superiority to achieve combat effectiveness and repel Russian attacks with technology. Historically, the country deployed some of the first data links and electronic warfare systems in its fighters, starting with the Saab 35 Draken and, more recently, the 37 Viggen. That combination of aircraft combat performance, pilot tactics, cost, and availability were all baked into the JAS-39 Gripen. From the beginning, the Gripen was designed with its electronics in mind. The idea was that, during a conflict with Russia in the 80s, unsecured voice radio could be easily intercepted or jammed, while digitally transmitted information was more secure. The first data sharing between aircraft and ground stations via radio included tactical information, such as the speed and altitude of the target or the direction to it, given as a point on the radar scope. The Gripen was built relatively small, about 6 tons empty, and at the time, it was risky because in 1982, computer technology meeting the requirements of performance and miniaturization did not yet exist. This stripped-back design also helped, firstly, to keep costs down, as it saved $10 million for additional General Electric F404 engine, and secondly, to give the basis for electronics innovations. December 2020 saw the first of a planned 60 Gripen series being handed over to the Swedish Air Force. The Gripen E has an overall length of 15.2 meters, a wingspan of 8.6 meters, and a maximum takeoff weight of 16.5 thousand kilograms. The aircraft's top speed is Mach 2 at high altitude, and its turnaround time is only 10 minutes in air-to-air configuration. The Gripen's internal fuel tanks, with a combined capacity of 3.4 thousand kilograms, are approximately 40% larger than those of its former version, which means extended range for the flight. Saab also increased the fighter's payload with the 2 additional hardpoints, added new sensors, and weapons. The Gripen E can carry up to 7 MBDA Meteor Beyond Visual Range air-to-air missiles. It features the Leonardo ES-05 Raven Active Electronically Scanned Array Radar and the Leonardo Skyward G Infrared Search and Track sensor. The new electronic warfare system features a 360-degree spherical missile approach warning system. It is also a formidable aircraft in more traditional respects: agile, fast, capable of cruising at supersonic speeds without afterburners, even when carrying external weaponry and fuel tanks. Because of its small size, it has a smaller radar cross-section. You have to get closer or put out more energy in your own radar to detect a Gripen. That means that the Gripen can get closer before launching its own missiles, giving it a few more kilometers of effective range. Although that's not enough to compete with the US or Russian fighters in traditional ways, Sweden prepared one more promising feature. Russia's Sukhoi fighters have achieved a kind of legendary status for their ability to outmaneuver US fighter jets in dogfights and pull off dangerous and aggressive stunts in the air. The Su-57 has a feature that was long promised for the F-22, but as of yet has never been delivered. Its side-facing radars mounted below the cockpit on the aircraft's cheeks. At first glance, the utility of these radars is clear. They provide a far greater sensor field of view and thus enhance situational awareness for the Su-57's pilot. But beyond these basic advantages, radars allow the Su-57 pilot to execute a beaming tactic better than nearly any other fighter around. Beaming is when a fighter turns 90 degrees away, perpendicular, to an enemy's pulse Doppler radar array, creating the blind spot. The Su-57 also has an advanced 101ks infrared search and track sensor installed atop the aircraft's nose. This sensor can provide targeting information to a fighter's missile in flight, even while that jet is beaming. Above all else, the Su-57 can operate and persecute targets while staying electromagnetically silent or giving off no radio emissions, which is just as big of a deal these days as being hard to detect on radar. To defeat Russia's fearsome fighters and surface-to-air missiles, the US has largely turned to stealth aircraft. One of the stealth's key technical goals is to approximate the aircraft's temperature with surrounding atmospheric as closely as possible to remove any detectable difference. Stealth costs a fortune and must be built into the shape of the plane. If Russia somehow cracks the code of detecting stealth-shaped fighters, the US's F-35, the most expensive weapon system in history, is cooked. But Saab took a different and cheaper approach to combat Russia's fighters and missiles. One thing that sets the Gripen apart from its direct competitors is the degree to which the entire aircraft and systems were designed around the electronic warfare suite. Focus on electronic attack gives an advantage over stealth because the software can evolve without a ground-up rebuild. Saab plans to update the software on the Gripen E every 2 years, giving it more flexibility to meet the evolving challenge. With the technology behind onboard sensor systems poised to change almost as rapidly as the applications in a smartphone, Saab has attempted to future-proof the Gripen by designing the avionics in such a way where the software is more or less hardware independent. Gripen E allows for that by separating the hardware layer from the software layer, and the flight-critical applications from the mission-critical tactical. So you can upgrade your $30 million Gripen as easily as your $700 iPhone, or additionally install customized apps from different countries. The threat environment changes quickly, and you will need to make changes in a much faster way while competitors are building totally new fighters. With AI electronics, the pilot can also select automation levels, for example, to use systems manually, semi-automatic, or totally automatic. It means the pilot can decide that they want to monitor and manage everything, select to approve or reject suggestions from the system, like weapons or maneuvering. The right tactical information is shared and displayed at the right moment, enabling quick and precise decision-making. This allows the Gripen E pilot to be in control intuitively and overcome competitors in timing. Alongside its impressive avionics, the Gripen E totes some very high-end sensors. It was the first fighter aircraft to feature an AESA radar mounted on a rotating repositioner or swash plate. This enables the electronically scanned antenna, which is normally fixed in a forward position on fighter aircraft, to be skewed to the left and to the right in order to increase its field of view. A pilot can turn away from the target more than 90 degrees and still maintain a lock with the radar. That's especially powerful when combined with the Meteor air-to-air missile. The duo of the Meteor missile and the AESA radar on a swash plate is a powerful combination for the Gripen E. Theoretically, the pilot can fire missiles at enemy fighters at extreme ranges and then hide in their radar's Doppler notch, while still guiding missiles to their intended target. The goal for the Gripen is to be a true multifunction aircraft in all aspects. Gripen pilots don't like to show their cards by demonstrating the full power of the jet's jamming in training, but the one time they did, it's completely reversed the course of the world's best fighter technologies.